At 81, I believed I was making the most reasonable and responsible decision for the years I had left. I had lived alone in my small home in Flagstaff, Arizona for over 2 decades. The winters were getting colder, the stairs felt steeper, and I had a few minor falls that left me shaken. My son Mark gently suggested I consider moving into an assisted living facility nearby. He said it would bring peace of mind for both of us. My daughter Rachel added that it would be a place where I wouldn't have to worry about household chores, grocery runs, or slipping in the shower. "Mom, you'll have people around you, good meals, and a safe routine," she said. It sounded logical, sensible, even comforting. And so after months of weighing the pros and cons, I agreed. I packed up my little house, gave away things I couldn't take, and moved into Willow Haven, a senior care facility tucked between pine trees and quiet hills. I remember stepping into my new room and telling myself, "This is a fresh start. You'll adjust." But now, nearly 2 years later, I look back and realize that what I thought was a gift of comfort was actually the beginning of something I didn't expect: the slow erosion of my independence. I had traded freedom for convenience, and I didn't fully understand how costly that trade would be, not in dollars, but in dignity, purpose, and identity. Don't get me wrong, there are kind people here. The staff does their job, the food is decent, but there's an invisible cost that no brochure can prepare you for. I used to decide how I wanted to live each day. Now I follow a schedule I didn't create in a room I didn't choose among people I never knew before I arrived. That's why I want to share 6 powerful truths I wish someone had told me before I made this life-altering decision. Because once you're in, everything shifts. And getting out emotionally, physically, and even logistically is far more complicated than it seems. If you or someone you love is thinking about making this move, please listen closely. My story might help you ask questions you haven't considered. It might help you hold on just a little longer to the life you've built. So let's begin. Here's the first regret, the one that hit me hardest and fastest: losing the ability to live life on my own terms. Regret number 1, losing control over my own routine. Before I moved into Silver Pines Senior Living in Bend, Oregon, my life had its own quiet rhythm. My name is Walter, and at 83, I had a routine that brought me peace. I'd wake naturally with the morning sun filtering through my bedroom window. No alarms, no rush. I'd pad into the kitchen in my slippers, grind my own coffee beans just the way I liked, and sit by the back porch, sipping slowly while listening to the birds. Some days I'd take a walk around the neighborhood, sometimes twice if my knees felt kind. I watered my plants, read the newspaper cover to cover, and enjoyed the freedom of doing everything on my own time. But once I moved into the facility, that rhythm was gone. I remember my first week at Silver Pines. Breakfast was served sharply at 7:30 a.m. Whether I was hungry or not didn't matter. If I missed it, there was no option to eat later unless I requested a cold tray. Lunch followed at noon, dinner at 5. The food wasn't terrible, but I missed the simplicity of my homemade eggs and toast. I missed choosing what I wanted when I wanted it. The staff meant well, but the system ran like a machine, orderly, efficient, and rigid. What surprised me most was how even something as small as a walk required planning. I couldn't just slip on my shoes and step outside. I had to sign out at the front desk, often wait for a staff member to accompany me if no one was immediately available, and explain where I was going, even if it was just to the bench under the maple tree by the gate. I understood it was for safety, but it felt like I had traded my freedom for permission slips. In those first few weeks, I kept reaching for parts of my old life: my coffee ritual, my afternoon walks, my unscheduled hours. But they slipped further away each day. There's something deeply unsettling about losing control over the small moments that once made life feel like your own. Now days blur together. Everything is structured. From wake-up calls to lights-out reminders, I feel more like a resident on a program than a person with autonomy. And that's the part no one warned me about. So if you're thinking about moving into a senior facility, ask yourself, are you ready to let go of the little freedoms that made your days uniquely yours? Because once you're on someone else's schedule, those moments become memories and you'll miss them more than you ever imagined. Regret number 2, slowly fading from the lives that once needed me. My name is Helen and I'm 81 years old. I moved into Rosewood Meadows, a senior facility in Lancaster, Pennsylvania 2 years ago. At the time, my son Matthew promised me I wouldn't feel alone. "Mom, I'll come see you every weekend," he said, holding my hand tightly. My granddaughter Lily hugged me and said she'd bring her sketch pad so we could draw together like we used to. In those early days, I held onto their words like a lifeline. And at first, they kept their promise. Matthew visited each Saturday without fail. He brought fresh flowers from the farmer's market, and we'd sit in the garden talking about everything: his job, his new house, Lily's school projects. Lily came with him sometimes, showing me her art and letting me braid her hair like I did when she was little. Those visits made the unfamiliar hallways and hospital white walls feel a little less sterile. I clung to them because they made me feel remembered. But slowly life happened. Work got busier, weekend trips came up, school became more demanding. "I'll try to come next week, Mom," Matthew would say on the phone. "Lily has a recital and we've got a lot going on." I understood. Truly I did. But 1 week turned into 3, then a month, then 2. I started to notice a pattern, not just with my family, but with others here too. Residents sitting by the entrance in their wheelchairs, eyes fixed on the front door, hoping this would be the day their daughter or grandson remembered. And when the door stayed closed and the clock kept ticking, they'd slowly turn their chairs back toward the quiet lounge, trying to hide the disappointment in their faces. It's not that my family stopped loving me, I don't believe that for a second. But when you're no longer part of the daily routine, no longer the one cooking Sunday dinner or attending family birthdays, you become less visible. Not out of cruelty, but simply out of distance. And that distance is painful. One evening, I picked up the photo of Lily and me at the park, laughing beneath a tree. I stared at it for a long time before placing it gently back on the nightstand. I reached for the phone, then paused. Should I call? Would I be interrupting dinner or bedtime? Or just adding another thing to their already packed schedule? I put the phone down. So if you are considering a move like this, ask yourself, are you prepared for the silence that creeps in? Not just around you, but within you, when you start becoming a beautiful memory instead of a present reality. Because once you're out of sight, being out of mind isn't far behind. Regret number 3, the slow disappearance of purpose. My name is Edward, and I'm 83 years old. Before moving into Willow Creek Senior Living in Eugene, Oregon, I lived a very full life. Even after retirement, I made it a point to stay engaged. I volunteered at the local food pantry every Tuesday and helped tutor high school students struggling with math. I had a small patio garden where I grew rosemary, thyme, and a stubborn tomato vine that refused to give up. Every morning I would rise with a sense of direction. I knew what the day would bring, where I was needed, what I could offer, and why I still mattered. But that changed the moment I entered this facility. At first, I thought it would be a welcome break. No more yard work, no more worries about cooking or keeping track of bills. My son assured me I had earned the right to rest, and I believed him. For a while, I enjoyed the ease. Meals appeared without effort. My bed was made for me. Medication was brought on schedule. I didn't have to lift a finger. But something strange started happening. The days began to blend into one another. Monday looked like Wednesday. Friday felt like Sunday. I stopped checking the calendar. There was nothing to prepare for, nothing to anticipate. My hands, once so busy with tasks, grew still. I stopped writing my monthly letters to the newspaper. The herb garden I had lovingly tended was replaced with a plastic plant on the windowsill. And with each passing day, I felt more like a shadow than a person. The staff here is kind, but their job is to care for me, not need me. And that's the hardest part. No one needs me anymore. I didn't realize how much purpose had anchored my identity. Helping others made me feel alive. Teaching gave me a sense of legacy. Even watering plants reminded me that I could still nurture something. Without those anchors, I've started drifting slowly, quietly. There's a man down the hall named Harold 86 who used to build model ships. Now he just stares out the window for hours. I don't know what to do with myself anymore, he told me last week. I knew exactly what he meant. This place takes care of our bodies, but no one tells you how much your soul still craves meaning. If you're considering moving into a facility like this, ask yourself, what gives your life purpose right now? And will that purpose follow you through the doors of a nursing home? Because once you're here, finding something that makes you feel useful again is harder than it seems. And without it, you start fading, not all at once, but in little quiet ways that no one else notices. Regret number 4. My health slipped away without warning. My name is Patricia, and I'm 81 years old. I moved into Lakeside Haven in Madison, Wisconsin, with the intention of protecting my health. At the time, it seemed like the responsible thing to do. My daughter insisted it was the safest option. She worried about me living alone, about the stairs of my old house, about what might happen if I fell or forgot to take my medications. I agreed, thinking I was being proactive. I told myself this will help me stay strong, independent, and well. But the irony is, since I arrived, I've never felt weaker. Before the move, I had a rhythm. I walked around my neighborhood every morning, rain or shine. I stretched in the kitchen while my tea steeped. I cooked my own meals, even if it was just a bowl of soup or a simple omelet. Those small tasks I now realize kept me moving. They kept my muscles active, my balance sharp, my confidence steady. But here, everything is done for you. Meals arrive at your table, no effort required. Laundry is whisked away and returned folded. If you need to reach something on a high shelf or lift a box, someone appears to help. At first, it felt like luxury. I remember thinking, this is the life. But over time, the ease turned into erosion. I began to move less. Sitting became my default position. I started skipping my morning walks, telling myself I'd go tomorrow. Then tomorrow turned into next week. My legs, once firm from daily strolls, began to feel stiff. Climbing the 3 steps onto the community patio became a challenge I hadn't expected. I found myself hesitating before standing up. My balance, once reliable, wobbled beneath me. It was as if my body was slowly giving up because I had stopped giving it a reason not to. And it wasn't just physical. With each loss of strength came a loss of spirit. I felt less like myself. I saw it in the mirror. The woman who once prided herself on being active and capable now needed help just to tie her shoes. I remember asking for assistance with something simple, a cardigan that had slipped behind my chair. As a young aide kindly handed it to me, I realized I hadn't bent down in days, maybe weeks. This place had taken away the strain, but with it the strength too. If you're thinking of making the same choice I did, please ask yourself, will your body stay strong when you're no longer using it daily? Because what starts as a kind gesture can quietly become a crutch. And once you stop pushing yourself, getting that strength back becomes an uphill battle you never expected to fight. Regret number 5. Losing privacy and dignity. My name is Helen and I'm 81 years old. Before moving into Rosewood Manor in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I had lived alone for nearly 2 decades. I loved the quiet, the space, the freedom to walk around in my robe at noon if I felt like it, or listen to classical music late into the night without worrying about disturbing anyone. My apartment was my sanctuary. Everything had its place, and more importantly, everything belonged to me, my memories, my photos, even the way the light came through the curtains in the afternoon. I never imagined how much of myself was wrapped up in that privacy until I lost it. Here, everything changed. From day one, I learned that privacy in a care facility isn't a guarantee, it's a luxury. My room, which I now share with a woman named Dorothy, feels more like a dormitory than a retreat. Dorothy is kind, but she snores loudly and talks in her sleep. Some nights I lie awake staring at the ceiling, missing the silence I once took for granted. I didn't choose her. I didn't choose the pink curtains or the institutional wall paint or the schedule that dictates when I sleep and when I rise. It's all been decided for me. What's harder than the lack of space is the loss of dignity. I used to be proud of how independent I was. Even in my 70s, I could bathe myself, dress myself, and maintain my routines with grace. But now someone helps me shower. Someone waits nearby while I use the toilet just in case I need assistance. They mean well, and I know they're just doing their jobs, but that doesn't make it feel any less humiliating. There's no such thing as privacy when someone walks in without knocking because they're on a schedule and you're just another check on the list. I remember once a young nurse entered while I was still getting dressed. She apologized, of course, but it didn't undo the shame I felt. It was a moment that stayed with me, not because she was rude, but because I realized I no longer had control over who entered my space or when. Even simple choices like what I want to wear or when I'd like to rest sometimes feel out of reach. If you miss the window for laundry day, you might not get your favorite sweater back for a week. If the dining menu lists fish and you don't like fish, well, tough luck. These small indignities pile up, and before you know it, you begin to feel less like a person and more like a patient. So if you're considering going into a facility like this, ask yourself, are you ready to surrender the quiet autonomy that made your life feel like your own? Because once you give it up, reclaiming it is far harder than you think. Regret number 6, leaving isn't easy. It's almost impossible. My name is Helen and I'm 81 years old. When I first moved into Golden Hills Retirement Center in Flagstaff, Arizona, I told myself it was just a temporary arrangement. I had fallen once at home and scared my son. He said it was for the best, just until we were sure I was safe. I agreed, thinking I'd stay for a few months, regain some strength, and then go back to my little house on Juniper Lane, where the porch swing still creaked in the wind and my neighbor's dog barked every morning like clockwork. But that was nearly 2 years ago. What I didn't realize is that once you move into a place like this, leaving is not just hard, it feels nearly impossible. At first, I believed I had options. I kept saying, maybe by spring I'll be home again. But spring came and went, then summer. And slowly the reality began to settle in. My home, my actual home, had been sold 6 months after I moved in. My son told me it was too much to maintain, that it was sitting empty and costing money. "You're happier here anyway," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I nodded, but my heart sank. Without that house, there was nowhere to return to. But even if the house had still been there, I don't know if I'd have the strength to go back. My legs don't move the way they used to. I need help with things I never imagined: buttoning my sweater, lifting a box, even stepping into the shower. In this place, everything is done for me. And while that sounds comforting, it's quietly taken away the parts of me that were strong. I didn't even notice it happening. I just woke up one morning and realized I wasn't the same woman who walked through those doors months earlier. And now my children believe this is where I belong. They tell me I'm settled, that I look well, and that it's better this way. I don't blame them, they mean well, but they don't see the ache behind my smile or hear the silence I sleep in each night. The longer I stay, the more distant my old life feels. It's like watching a movie of someone else's story, one that I used to be in, but now can only observe from afar. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself one important question. Are you ready for the possibility that once you go in, getting out may no longer be within your control? Because when you give up your space, your routines, and your strength piece by piece, you might find there's no simple path back to the life you once called your own. So before you take that step, before you pack your belongings into boxes and hand over your keys, ask yourself, are you truly prepared to let someone else determine the rhythm of your days? Are you ready to surrender the subtle freedoms that, although small, shape the quality of your life? My name is Walter, and at 81, I've come to realize that comfort without autonomy is not peace. It's quiet resignation. I live now at Pinebrook Haven in Flagstaff, Arizona, a place that offers safety, warmth, and structure. But what it also took, without warning, was my ability to decide how I wanted to live moment to moment. Don't misunderstand me. There are good people here, nurses who care, staff who smile, meals that are nutritious, and calendars full of activities meant to keep us engaged. But none of that replaces the feeling of walking into your own kitchen and deciding whether you want toast or eggs. None of that gives back the dignity of choosing when you'd like to go for a stroll, or the quiet joy of sitting in your own backyard listening to birds you recognize by sound, not by laminated pictures on a hallway wall. So if you're watching this and thinking about a move into a care facility, pause. Truly pause. Is this the only option? Could there be other ways to receive the help you need without giving up the independence you've spent a lifetime earning? Could a family member assist a few hours a week? Could a visiting caregiver or home service help bridge the gap? Are there community programs, church volunteers, or trusted neighbors who might support you so that you don't have to trade your freedom for convenience? Because once you step into this world, leaving isn't just a matter of packing up again. It's harder than you think. You lose strength physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You stop making decisions, and eventually that becomes your new normal. And regaining what you've lost, well, it's a steep climb many never make. If something in this story touched you, if it made you stop and think about what matters most in your next chapter, then please comment 9 below. It lets us know you're still listening, still engaged, still willing to reflect. And if this wasn't your story, but you believe honest conversations like this need to continue, then click the like button. Your small act supports a much larger mission. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Wisdom and Health of the Elderly. Here we talk about the real stories, the ones that matter when everything else fades. Because your voice still matters, your life still matters, and your choices still belong to you.